Once upon a time, there was a woman who had no children. She once went to a good witch for help. The woman said she was dreaming of a child. The sorceress gave her a seed and ordered to plant it in a flower pot. The woman was very happy, thanked the old woman, and went home. At home, she planted a seed, watered it, and began to wait patiently. Soon a large wonderful flower, like a tulip, grew in the pot. When its petals opened, there was a tiny girl inside. She was very small, no more than an inch. Therefore, the woman called her Thumbelina. One night, when Thumbelina was fast asleep, a huge toad climbed onto the window of the house, wet and ugly. She grabbed the sleeping girl and hurried to her swamp. The toad decided to marry her ugly son to the beautiful Thumbelina. She planted her in the middle of the river on a wide lily leaf so that the girl would not run away. In the morning, Thumbelina woke up, and realized that she was not at home, but there was water around her. When the girl realized what a terrible fate awaited her, she wept bitterly. At this moment, small fish swam past. They felt sorry for Thumbelina. They gnawed at the stem of the lily, and the leaf floated with the flow with the girl. A large beetle flew past. Seeing a beautiful girl, he grabbed her and carried her to a tree, where he introduced her to his friends. They all envied her beauty, but said that Thumbelina was very ugly and could not be in their company. Under pressure from acquaintances, the beetle also decided that she was ugly, lowered the girl to the ground and said goodbye. All summer Thumbelina lived alone in the forest. She made a cradle for herself from grass and leaves. She ate on pollen and dew, basked in the sun in clear weather, and hid from the rain under a large leaf of burdock. But soon cold rains and winds came. Thumbelina did not have a winter outfit, and she began to freeze. The girl suffered from hunger and cold, and one day she was sheltered by a field mouse. They lived together gloriously. The girl helped the mouse with the housework, told her fairy tales, and in return received warm housing and food. The field mouse had a neighbor, a wealthy blind mole, who did this by counting his wealth all the time. Even being blind, the mole realized that Thumbelina was very cute and offered to marry her. But the girl was not at all happy about this. She did not like the boring mole. Once, walking along the underground passages, Thumbelina saw a wounded swallow, which almost died of the cold.
Oh no!
All winter she took care of the sick bird and by the spring she cured her. Before the wedding, Thumbelina asked the mouse to let her go upstairs to admire the sun at last. When she climbed out of the mouse hole, she saw a swallow, which she cured. Thumbelina complained to the bird that she was being forced to marry a nasty mole and live with him deep underground. The swallow invited the girl to fly with her to warm lands, and she agreed. She quickly said goodbye to the mouse, climbed onto the swallow, and they flew away. Once in a wonderful country, Thumbelina saw a huge meadow with beautiful flowers. She chose the most beautiful flower for herself to live in. Suddenly, she saw in the flower the same little man as she, only with wings. It was the king of the elves. And an elf lived in every flower. The beautiful elf has never seen a girl as small as himself, and even so beautiful. He immediately fell in love with Thumbelina, and invited her to become his wife, the queen of the elves and the queen of flowers. After all her adventures, the girl was happy to hear such an offer from the charming prince. She happily agreed. The elf took Thumbelina by the hand, and at the same moment 2 wings appeared behind her. Now she has become the queen of the elves. And since then they have lived happily ever after.
Once upon a time, a cunning and narcissistic fox lived in a dense forest. She deceived everyone, so none of the animals trusted her, and did not want to be friends with her. Soon the fox got tired of being alone, and she invited her neighbor Crane to dinner. At first, the crane refused, remembering that the fox cannot be trusted. But the fox convinced him, saying that except for him, none of the animals wants to be friends with her. And most importantly, the fox invited him to become best friends. Crane was glad of this invitation, and after a while went to visit. The fox's soup was very aromatic. After setting the table, she sprinkled the food into large plates. The fox invited the crane to the table and began to eat her soup with pleasure. But the crane couldn't taste it out of such a flat dish. He unsuccessfully banged his beak on the plate, and in the end remained hungry. The crane was upset, thinking that the fox was very inattentive to him. But he was a guest at her house, so he did not say anything about his resentment. Meanwhile, the fox finished the soup to the last drop. Seeing that the crane was about to leave, she asked in disbelief if he liked the dinner.
No.
The crane politely said goodbye and went home hungry and upset. After a while, the crane decided to teach the fox a good lesson. He went to his girlfriend and politely invited her to dinner. Lisa was very happy with the offer and agreed. Having prepared dinner, the crane took out 2 tall and narrow jugs for himself and the fox. He set the table and put the food in the jugs. By this time the fox had come. She was very hungry. The crane invited the guest to the table, and the friends proceeded to dinner. The fox tried to eat from a narrow jug, but nothing came of it, because the vessel was too narrow. Meanwhile, the crane ate with ease with its long beak. When he finished, he saw the fox trying unsuccessfully to eat. Crane asked if she liked the dinner. But the fox replied that she could not eat anything due to the fact that the jug was too narrow and long. The crane was expecting a similar answer. He reminded the fox that he had left her house hungry because the plate was too flat. And then she realized her mistake. She felt ashamed that she was so inattentive to her neighbor. Lisa apologized and said that she could not even think that he would not be able to eat from such a plate. Crane forgave her and said that henceforth they need to remember their differences. Having said this, he brought a large plate from which the guest could easily eat her dinner. When it was time to say goodbye, the fox got an idea. She asked the crane to take one of his jugs to his home, so that he could easily dine with the fox. The neighbor liked this idea. He praised the fox, saying that if she uses her cunning and ingenuity for good deeds, she will have many friends. The fox and the crane laughed merrily. They have been best friends ever since. After some time, the crane came to say goodbye to its neighbor before heading to warmer lands. Left alone, the fox got bored. But she never forgot the words of the crane. Since then, the fox stopped thinking only about herself and found real friends among other animals in the forest.